How to separate the three solid compounds. In order to separate the three solid compounds, you can run the mixture through a silica column. To do this, you'll need to wet pack the column to ensure it is tight and will properly filter the compound as needed. From there, one can add the three compounds to an eluent of hexane and ethyl acetate with a ratio of 4:1 and add it to the column. Next, you will flush roughly 10 milliliters of the eluent out of the column and begin collecting samples in the test tubes provided. Do this until the eluent runs out, and then add more hexane and ethyl acetate with the same ratio of 4:1 and continue to collect samples. Once a second eluent runs out, switch the ratio to 1:1 and collect more samples. Finally, when that mixture runs out, switch to pure ethyl acetate for one more rinse through the column. Now that the samples have all been collected, they should contain the isolated compounds depending on how fast they ran through the column, which means the less polar compound, which is B, will be in the first test tubes collected, and the more polar compound, A, will be in the last test tubes collected, with the third compound, which is C, being somewhere in the middle. The reason for these results is due to the fact that the silica is a highly polar compound, and therefore a less polar solid will run through the column faster and be in the earlier collected test tubes, causing compound B to run first. Using that same theory, compound C, the one in the middle regarding polarity, will be in the test tubes collected in the middle of the experiment, likely when you switch to the ratio of the eluent of 1:1. Finally, compound A will be in the last test tubes collected because it will take a very polar eluent to force it out and will likely only run out of the column using pure ethyl acetate because the polar compound is equally or more attracted to the polar eluent of the silica gel.
How to wet pack a column. First, ensure that there is a cotton ball in the bottom of the column so that none of the silica gel runs out by adding a small amount of eluent to it. Add the silica powder to the eluent with a 4:1 ratio of hexane to ethyl acetate. Swirl it in a beaker to ensure the gel is free floating, and then with paste, pour it into the column using a liquid funnel. Use positive pressure to help the silica gel settle faster, then mark the height of the silica column. Open the column and collect the eluent using positive pressure to speed up the process and assist in packing the column tight. Another method to help pack the column is to use a rubber tube and slightly tap the sides of the column. Continue running eluent through the column until the silica gel does not shift any further and is packed to desired density. It is very important to not let your column run dry.
How to spot a mixture on a TLC plate. First, you can prepare the TLC plate by labeling each place you spot a compound using a soft number 2 pencil so as to not disturb the silica coating. Make sure the marks are at least 5 millimeters above the bottom of the plate and properly identified, and also stop the run when the eluent is roughly 5 millimeters from the top of the plate. Next, clean the spotting pipette using pure ethyl acetate 3 times, dragging it across a paper towel between each rinse. This will ensure any leftover previous compound is absent from the spotting pipette, so it will not contaminate the desired compound. Once the pipette is clean, it's ready to be used to transfer the compound onto the TLC plate, ensuring that a sufficient amount has been placed on your soft pencil mark. This can be confirmed by seeing a purple dot under a UV light before running the TLC. The TLC plate should now be ready to run in a solution of hexane and ethyl acetate with a ratio of 4:1.
What is an ideal RF? An ideal RF is about halfway up the TLC plate. If the eluent is not the proper polarity, you will either have an RF value too close to 1, which means the compound has traveled too close to the top of the plate with the eluent, and you need to use a less polar eluent, or the value is too close to 0, which means the compound did not travel far enough and you need a more polar eluent.